Good afternoon and welcome to CNC in the AEC. I'm Crystal Pierce with FFKR Architects.
And I'm Cassie Wells with Modern Business Development. And here today we have a very special guest, Justin Neagle.
Hi.
Hi. Waiting for like the cheers, the audience cheers.
I can hear the roar.
Yes.
Yes.
So Justin is with Spot Migration, and he also has a very unique building scale podcast. So Justin, let's talk about, before we talk about your journey, we're going to talk about how we met.
Sure.
It's a fun story.
It's a unique period of time in both of our lives when we were both at Joe's Crab Shack.
Oh, Joe's Crab Shack.
So he's actually one of the few people that was in the early stages of me and Paul dating.
Oh my goodness.
So he's seen it all, man.
I can't imagine
From the beginning.
From the beginning.
The young
little 18-year-old
Paul and Cassie
and 18-year-old Paul
in
circa
the
2008.
crab suit.
In the crab suit, yeah. I often talk about my days in the crab suit. You also wore the crab suit.
Of course.
Do you remember what kind of crab it was?
What kind of crab the crab suit was?
Uh-huh.
If I had to guess, I don't. Or if I had to guess, I don't remember. But if I had to guess, I'd say Dungeness crab. I don't know.
That's very close. It looked like one.
Uh-huh.
It had a crown, so it was in
king
fact
crab?
a king crab.
Yeah.
It was a king crab that showed your face.
Yes, I do remember that because I remember putting it on for birthday celebrations and saying like, "Yes, hooray! We're gonna have a howdy happy birthday."
Yeah. And then we'd be like, "You have crabs."
Yep.
There
was a lot of humor that was on the edge. I remember the first shirt I had was like, "Diamonds are forever, but you'll never forget the crabs." That was the shirt that they sold at the restaurant. And that I was at,
I think
20-year-old me was like, "This is hilarious."
I thought it was great.
But yeah, so Joe's Crab Shack, very risque.
You know what my favorite shirt was? Hot Legs and Great Tail.
Oh yeah.
Hot Legs and Great Tail. That was my favorite.
How long can we go on with this?
Oh, when the steam pots came out, there was a shirt that said "Take your top off."
Yeah,
because you'd open it up to serve it.
Yeah. Anyways,
I don't know what rated podcast this is.
This is now adult content.
I
We've switched over.
Awesome.
I have to push the button on YouTube now.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I think the most embarrassing outfit I ever wore was like a clown suit in junior high.
Oh,
that was awful.
That actually does sound awful.
I'm scared of
That's
clowns,
way worse than a crab suit. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Hey, off we go.
And here we go. And so Paul and I got to know Justin very well. I mean, when you serve with someone, manage with someone, bartend with someone, you get to know their true tie-dye colors. We had to wear tie-dye at the Crab Shack. That's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so thank you for coming on.
Mm-hmm.
So
thank you for having me.
Of course.
Yeah.
I'm very excited.
Yeah.
We're going to
So
talk
you
about
and
some
I,
exciting things today.
I usually sit on the other side of the podcast.
Is it
as the
really
interviewer,
us,
and I'm
right?
like, oh, this is how guests feel? Oh my goodness.
We could
because
never.
we're both looking at you like,
We had to be on the same side.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's like for her to be over there.
no, yeah, this is how we were on the CCS News.
Yeah.
So we had to keep the same side.
You didn't turn the chairs though.
No, you can't.
Unfortunately,
No,
I know.
no. And Jake's in the super chair. That's like 800 pounds, that chair.
That looks like an awesome chair though.
He's
I
over
can't
there in
move
the
it.
throne.
We'll have to get a picture, put that in the show notes. That
Yeah,
thing's awesome.
we have to. Absolutely. So Justin, there was a 10-year gap in our friendship and communication. And that's because you had some great adventures that you were on. So take us through your journey.
Yeah, so Arizona State University, go Devils.
Go Devils.
For sure. So graduated with a criminal justice degree. And I said, hey, it's 2010. Let me go find a job back in Chicago, where I'm originally from. And there were no jobs, by the way. So I started working at a law firm. My mom knew law firm people, and I got into a law firm, which is great, cool. I'm just going to do this till I become super cop. And then after, I don't know, 4 to 5 years of like going through everything and just like testing and retesting and just waiting and waiting and waiting. And I was going to be a Chicago police officer. I was literally done with everything. I was just waiting for them to decide, you now have a job. Like went through lie detector, everything. Like psych eval, everything across the board. And I remember asking at one of these 3 months re-up of your physical was, hey, so what, like, was there any reason I wouldn't get a job? Like, is there any reason I wouldn't? He said, well, it's kind of just like monkeys throwing darts at a dartboard. There's no rhyme or reason why we're going to pick you over somebody else. And I said, all right, so you don't care about me in any way, shape, or form. While this law firm that I had worked at for 7 years in total, but at that point, probably 5 years, was like grooming me to do all these amazing things. And they really cared about me and they're an amazing place. And I was like, all right, well, I'm just going to put my ambition to be super cop away, and I'm gonna go into business and kind of work this side. And I was gonna do HR, and then I started dating one of the legal assistants, who is now my wife, Jamie. Apparently, can't be in HR and date people. So then, very weird.
Huh.
So then they moved me into marketing and business development. So yeah, I think my title, which was ridiculous, it was like marketing and business development technologist. I think is what the
That
title
doesn't even go together at all.
Yeah, well, you're telling me, but
How
it was
does
awesome to have like
Those are all my favorite things.
the-
though.
Those are all separate,
Yep.
in my opinion.
Well, I guess
in
we're
my
going to
opinion,
talk that
but-
through, aren't we?
Yes. So that
Okay.
that was the title, and then I moved to tech to Spot and Spot Migration, IT support, cybersecurity, compliance, all that fun stuff for construction. So yeah, that's where I'm at now, and that's kind of the thing that's brought us together to a degree today.
Can I ask, how did you find each other again? How did that happen?
The LinkedIn. I don't know if you've
The
heard of this.
LinkedIn.
I don't know if you've heard about this, but yes.
Yeah, we were asked yesterday what our favorite app was,
Uh-huh.
and I was like, LinkedIn. Does that count?
Oh yeah.
And I
So-
guess it counted. So
I no longer use other social media, just LinkedIn. It's the only one I have on my phone. It's the only one I look at it all. And I use it all the time. It's the best. Like
Yeah,
It is the best.
Lovely.
it cuts through a lot of the noise. And now there's some stuff in there that I'm like, okay, this is getting kind of ridiculous. But like in general, I'm like, oh yeah, this is just way easier to like see what people are doing that I care about, have more of a professional, connection with. And
Yeah.
it's been great. So go LinkedIn.
Go LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Sponsor the podcast, LinkedIn. Come on, get it done.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, does that mean they're going to give me premium?
And
If we-
for free.
That's all they want. They
Thank
don't even
you.
want any other dollars. They
looking
just want
for just
premium.
free.
We're looking for it though.
Go get your
To not
premium account.
pay.
I mean, I don't do it, but someone
Yeah, I
should do
know.
it.
Um,
Okay, so talk to us a little bit about building scale.
Building scale is super exciting. So last January, not this past one, we set out to say, hey, we help companies with technology in the construction space, AEC, and we kept getting kind of questions about other stuff, people, process, other aspects, and we thought, how can we help them in these areas that we don't directly help them? And it was like, oh, well, let's just interview some really. Can we swear on this podcast? I don't know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, some really badass leaders
Yeah.
that are in the space and what they're doing, and let them share their knowledge with the guest or with the audience. And it was kind of born where it was like, we believe that building scale in a business, any business, but in AEC specifically, is people, process, and technology. And if you get those three right, you can go to the moon. So we've got to interview some really high-end people. Michael Graves Architecture is one of them. A bunch of engineering firms, Clark Construction out of Michigan, which is, I think they're like the second largest construction company in Michigan. I mean, like some big players that we've just really enjoyed. Tons of fun. And we've gotten a lot of feedback about how like awesome that it's been. Like people have reached out to us and said like, that episode was great. I'd love to meet that person. Or, hey, I'm selling my business and I know that person's looking for M&A. And like, so like we've made some connections that way. So it's done so many things that we did not think it would do, that we're thrilled. So we love it. So
That's amazing.
building
Yeah.
scale.
That's the dream.
Yep.
Very cool.
Mhm.
Awesome. So, why we actually had you on today
Uh-oh.
is because,
This seems like a setup now.
well, I guess, let me ask this question, and I'm going to ask you. I hope someone asks
We're
me, or
gonna
I'll
ask
ask
you.
myself. Is there a difference between marketing and business development?
Yes, there's a difference between the two of those. But I would say that business development, it overhangs. It's the umbrella for me. When I think about BD, I think sales and marketing are two units underneath it. Not that
okay.
it is separate. Not like I don't say sales is BD. I say marketing and sales is BD, but they're underneath the umbrella. So,
Okay.
but I do think
How would
those
you
two are
distinguish then between them.
direct single interaction is more of a sales activity. It's an easy way to go about it. You had a networking event that you directly talk to somebody. You had a call. You're doing cold calling, right? Like bam, bam, like hitting the phone with one to one is usually sales. Like that's usually going to be a sales activity. marketing is more spread. So it's like I do advertising, right? So I if that's on television, if it's on Google ads, if it's LinkedIn ads, wherever it is, that's more of a marketing activity in comparison to direct outreach on LinkedIn, which would be more of a sales activity, in my opinion. Certainly, I think that the beauty is when you can get those two to blend. And that's where I think magic happens. And I'm super excited to talk more about that. But what do you think?
So I definitely think of marketing and business development as being, I think they definitely go hand in hand,
Mm-hmm.
that you should be working together to accomplish both things, but I see them as two separate roles, definitely.
Mhm.
I would describe it somewhat as marketing and business development, as Cassie and I have used the analogy of fishing,
Mhm.
which I'm going to let her get more into that. But also, I think of marketing and BD as kind of like inside cat versus outside cat roles.
Okay.
So marketing is more of like, okay, you have the inside cat who is taking care of everything inside the house, staying inside the house, making sure, the house is taken care of, that the people, when they're at home, they're all taken care of. But then you have the outside cat that's getting out there and kind of getting in the mud,
In the
in the
streets, in
street,
the alley.
acting up, meeting all the people out in that
Acting up.
alley, like maybe bringing home some strays. So they are bringing home those, maybe some other
This is definitely the adult
cats,
version of the CNC and the AEC. That's all right.
bringing home some maybe babies.
Yeah.
Okay.
Back to the crib
Mhm.
to introduce to the homies.
Crib. Not the
But
homies.
not to
But that
introduce to the
everyone likes.
inside cat.
Not necessarily.
Yeah.
No, because the inside cat has their home.
Mhm.
They're peaceful. They're keeping things right.
Yeah.
But you need the outside cat that's going to bring home all the
strange. Yeah,
the
I get it.
strange, because you also need that to keep things spicy. Am I making any sense?
I get it.
You're
I'm
making
following
sense in the difference. Typically,
That's part of it.
personality wise,
Yes.
I think that's what you commonly see. So
What about you? Yeah.
here's how I look at it. And so we did talk about fishing, right?
Yes. Which I like our fishing analogy as well.
Crystal and I we used to, I would say business development, but by your definition, we would go out on sales calls as we were meeting with an individual.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
whatever we were doing when we were meeting with these people, they would often ask, like, what's the difference between you and Crystal? And our roles at CCS, I was in sales, you were in business development. And the way that I would describe it is Crystal casts the net
Mhm.
and I hook the fish. And if it's my client, I'm going to reel it in. If it's not, I'm handing it to a sales rep and they're going to reel it in.
Okay.
And that's how I looked at the difference.
Interesting.
Because she is being an outside cat out there knowing absolutely everyone that she needs to.
Uh-huh.
But my role was to determine, is this a good fit? How can I help this individual? Does it make sense for them to work with my company? And if it didn't,
we either let them go or keep
catch and release.
Sure. Yeah.
Or, find another fish. And
Interesting.
and so that's how we determine the difference.
Okay. So then so that seems like the caster of the net, the reeler of the fish. So where would you say a marketing would come into play? Because I feel like that's almost a different, like what you're describing as in BD seems different. That's not marketing. That's something different. That's like, hey,
No.
I'm networking, I'm leveraging my network, I'm doing these things. It's not necessarily I'm selling anything. I'm just connecting dots.
Yes.
Like I'm just a connector that's connecting people to the right place. That to me is that's not marketing. I wouldn't even necessarily say it's sales, right? Like I would say that it's
more as I'd say advertising, maybe in charge of proposals. It depends, I think, on the firm.
Sure.
On what the role
totally
is.
Depends on
every
the firm.
firm is different on what marketing is.
Sure.
Because for us right now, we have a marketing team.
Yep.
And our team, each person is responsible for something different.
Yep.
So it all depends on your company.
Because I think
something totally different.
I think certain companies are like when you get to the C level, right? C-suite level, like you'll have like a chief revenue officer, right? They'll oversee both
Yeah.
sales and marketing.
Mhm.
Right. So this is kind of
Yes.
where I go with my mindset of like BD, right? Because it's
Mhm.
like anything underneath here, which would include this role of what you call BD. I don't know. I don't have a name for that, but I think that just sits underneath this outlook because it needs to be thought as a system. It needs to be one unit, even though they are separate accountability.
Right.
The accountability is different. A marketer compared to a salesperson compared to this BD rep person, their accountability individually is different, but the goal of that totality of department should be the same across the board. And I think that's why having an umbrella term, if it's BD or if it's whatever that term is super crucially important because like, so my title is chief storyteller, right? Like I need to be able to in a sales meeting needs to be told the same way as same as it when you look at our website, the same as when we have a podcast guest, whatever it is, that needs to be the same across the board and can't be different based upon, oh, my role is different. So then it's said differently, right? It's overseeing it and saying like this, there is a unit to this. There is unity.
That reminds
Yeah.
me of what Brittany was talking about on your podcast.
Yes.
When
Yes.
she was saying like, yes, there's a story. You said, hold up, wait. There's a story that the founders have
Mhm.
experienced, but is that being relayed through the company? Are we telling the same story? And
Yep.
so, yeah, I really like that. I look at sales marketing. Now I'm going to put my cup down, my modern BZ cup. I like to look at sales, marketing, and business development as a triangle. And
Okay.
so they each are a point on the triangle going towards the same goal. And you have to have a balance. You don't want it to be too far off where you aren't doing any marketing
Mhm.
or you're not doing any business development or it's going to be lopsided and you're going to be off of your centered goal.
Sure.
So it needs to be all of them working together towards the same goal. That is how I look at it. But
And
when
that's
we say
it.
each company is different, it's crazy how many people that when I sit down just ask, what is business development to you? How's that different than sales?
Mhm.
It
Are
is
you going to
it
do
is
my
on
proposals? Are you going to plan my
exactly.
events?
Yep.
There's
And there's
not a
some
clear
people I feel
definition.
like that have to do it all at a company
Yep.
Well,
where
there
their
are,
role is
depending on
like,
the
oh,
size of the
I do
company.
everything. But I always think of it as it's still, even if they're doing everything, I still think it's three totally two different. It's three roles. It's all different. And I think of it business development as you're out there generating new leads and
Mhm.
business and meeting new people, but then you need to pass those people and projects and leads off to a salesperson.
Mhm.
And then the marketer is then advertising those projects.
It's really
And-
interesting because I think that like so that role it doesn't have to be done this way, but I think of like a cold caller, right? You're just
Yes.
calling for leads. And not saying that's the best way to get leads or whatever, but whatever you're doing, whatever activity you're doing to simply just get leads, like that role is my goal is leads. That's my goal. It's not to close the deal, it's to get leads.
Mhm.
That's my goal. The same like marketing should be thought similarly, right? It's like yes, there's some branding aspects in this, and sometimes it's not as easy. It's not as direct as like saying like, I talked to somebody, they said they needed our help. I sent it to the sales department. It could
Yeah.
be something different than that.
Yeah.
But the concept is still like, yeah, the goal is to get the salesperson more opportunities to be able to close more business.
I
Right.
think the hardest thing about a business development role, though, is sometimes passing off those leads and then maybe the sales manager not necessarily following up or
Mhm.
fostering or nurturing those relationships and them kind of going nowhere. Like, so in a business development role, you still have to be checking on those
Mhm.
and like watering the seeds, make sure that everything is still in bloom. So you have to always go back and check.
Well, and you have to
It's
make sure that what you're bringing in is what what the agreed upon plan is.
right.
Right. Because
So
that's
like
another
you
thing
said, the
where I think
triangle.
the triangle. I feel like in a company when there's disconnect between what sales would like to close and what opportunities business development is chasing and what the marketing plan has laid out, if there's a disconnect, you're not going to sell because then what you're bringing in, sales is like, no, I don't want this. Or they
Mhm.
say no. And that's where a lot of frustration starts with business development people because they're like, I'm doing my job.
Mhm.
Here's a lead. You don't want it. Here's another lead. You don't want it.
Or
And
if they're like, "We can't take it."
yeah. And it's like, wait, let's talk about this. Instead of like, oh, it wasn't a good fit, you need to set a meeting with them and be like, why was this not a good fit?
Mhm.
Why was this turned down? Should I be avoiding these in the future? What are we looking for? Oh, you're looking for these types of roles. I was told to go after these types of, projects. Like that's totally different. So I think getting everyone on the same page is step one. And then it's a matter of unity. What is our message? What are we all saying?
Mhm.
Right.
Mhm.
So
That's why I'm an
Yes.
umbrella believer, because I do think it needs to all be. That's why I think you need to all be on the same page.
mhm.
That's
Mhm.
how you execute and are as effective as you can be. Because the same goes to if your BD person and your salesperson on the same page, but marketing isn't. That means that like when somebody you meet and you get this lead that says, "Hey, like you'd be great. You should talk to Cassie, and that'd be awesome." And then it's like they go to the website and they say, "That doesn't look like anything you do," or
Mhm.
"It doesn't look like you have any experience with the thing I specifically need," even though that's the thing that you're attacking. Like, so say if it's we're attacking compliancy industries, right? So just for
Mhm.
an example, great, you guys are doing that. But if on the website and on LinkedIn and everywhere else that we're talking about, we don't mention compliance anywhere, it just looks like,
It's
well, that's just a
confusing.
lie.
Yeah.
Like, even though if it's true, it's not telling the full story and the full message. And that's why I think it's crucially important that it's overseen by at least an individual that is looking at it in the totality.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I
Yeah.
agree.
Yes.
Yeah. That
Look
makes
at
a lot
that.
of sense. I know. Did we solve it?
I know
Yeah, we
so.
of course we solved it.
Solve the mystery?
All Earth's problems
I also think it's
solved.
expectations of the different roles, right? I think that's another thing because especially somebody that's not intimate with it. You say an owner of a company or C-suite of a company, they're like, "Oh, we're not selling enough." And it's like, well, where is the problem? Because it could be a marketing problem, and
Mhm.
it could be a BD problem, it could be a closing problem or a sales problem, right? Like, I think it's being able to understand that there are again different accountabilities for the three, even though the goal is the same for the three.
Yeah. And I think that having a top-down approach where the message is the same all the way from the top, because you never know. You could have a CEO that's like sell, 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 sell,
Mhm.
sell.
Mhm.
And then mid-level, they're like, whoa, pump the brakes. We're too busy. We're going to
We
just
have
like,
no operational structure for
Yeah.
this. What are you doing? You're going to kill
yes,
us. Yeah.
yes. But if the CEO is talking to the BD person
Mhm.
and the BD person is bringing it to the mid-level manager,
Mhm.
and then they're super disappointed. And then that's when
Right.
BD people are like, I got to
Right.
get out of here.
Uh-huh.
They don't appreciate me. And it's not that they don't appreciate you, it's that
Yep.
it's the goals are not aligned.
This goes to just a concept of any company and like what your core focus is, what your core purpose is, what like all of like more strategically thinking about a company, like what's the goal? Like not just like, hey, we want to hit a sales number, but it's like, well, what is the goal of that? Do you want to have a specific market? Like, hey, we want to have every contractor in Arizona, or every subcontractor in Arizona, or every glass maker in Arizona, or every
Mhm.
manufacturer in Arizona. Like, like what is the actual goal that you're trying to achieve, and it needs to be spelled out throughout the company. And they say it takes 7 times for anybody to remember anything. Like it just that just takes a long time, and
Mhm.
that means it needs to be said not once, not twice, but 7 times continuously, from leadership all the way down to the person that's setting up amazing podcast equipment.
Yeah.
Yay. I agree with that. And I think at a point in time where the valley is so busy, sorry, use the busy word, but business is booming. Companies are now at a point where before they were, please let us bid. And now they're like, oh, I don't have time for that.
Mm.
That message of who your company wants to do business with is so important.
Oh, yeah.
And if you have 10 sales reps and they all have a different vision
Mhm.
of an ideal client,
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
that is very confusing. And it's like a very mixed message,
Mhm.
right? So I think it's important not just to have the 3 in the triangle aligned, but especially with my trade partners, my subcontractors, the people that I'm working with, you have to also take into account what does operations think?
Mhm.
What do the project managers think? What do the designers think? Like is everyone on the same page with who a good client is?
Mhm.
Because that can mean so many different things. Sales might be like, this was the best job I've ever brought in. Like, oh man, like big numbers. This is great. And the project managers are like, absolutely not. I'm not going to manage a project like that again. And that to me is all a part of, again, diving into what are our goals? How do we get there? And are we unified in our communication in all levels of the company?
Yeah. Culture, right? I mean, that goes to culture. Does everybody feel comfortable saying like, I don't want to do this. It's a bad idea. Because a lot of times it's like business is like, hey, we're doing lots of business. And it's like, that doesn't inherently mean it's good, right? Like, because there could be like, you're literally crushing somebody's soul in
Oh, that's
operations.
absolutely
And
true.
it becomes, does that
Yeah.
person feel comfortable saying like, yo, you're crushing my soul? Like,
Mhm.
like this is not, because that leads to other problems, obviously retention problems and things like that. And then when you have retention problems internally, retention problems for clients become a thing, depending on the severity of retention internally.
Of
So,
course. Of course. Yeah. So
Other thoughts?
I can go on for days on thoughts of lots of things, but nothing else on this. I think we're all on the same page. Triangle, umbrella, fisherman, cats, the whole thing. I think we're in agreement.
Okay.
Across the board. I think we
Oh,
just
good.
describe it a little differently.
we do. Yeah. Yeah. But I think the overlaying theme here is that they are different things working together towards a common goal. Would that be safe?
Yeah.
I'm curious though if any of our listeners think otherwise.
Please chime
so
in. Let us know your thoughts.
if you do.
I do want to talk about when I met with Justin. What was that? January? Maybe January.
Maybe
I don't know.
January.
I don't know.
Maybe. Yeah, that's
Met
about right. That's
again
probably right.
when I met him again after 10 years.
Mhm.
You asked me a question that was very meaningful to me and interrupted my day and interrupted the motions, right? Can you talk a little bit about what that was?
Yeah. So many people like to say, "How can I be helpful?" or "How can I help you?" It's very common. It's a thing.
It's
And if
usually
you're
what
not
we say.
minimally saying that,
Usually it's we say.
if you're not minimally saying that, you should
Add
minimal
it.
start saying
Yeah.
that, because that'll be better. I like to say, "How can I be impactful?" I think it has a different meaning. It has a different feeling. It also stops them from they've heard, "How can I be helpful? How can I be helpful?" But it also stops them to think like, oh, impactful in comparison to helpful are different things. You're asking for something completely different. And I believe words do matter, like depending on what you're saying. And for me, that is, so my theme of my year is be impactful. That's my year's 2023's theme. So everything I do now, it's to that, right? It's saying like, when I wrote in my journal before I got up here, I said, okay, I want to be impactful on this podcast. I want to be able to share with both of you my knowledge, with your audience my knowledge, and I want to make sure that like afterwards you're like, that was great. That was something that was impactful. Like it was something that actually meant something to me, and it wasn't just, oh, it was great to have a guest on because then we got some more content, and like that's helpful. Like getting content is helpful. Getting valuable content is being impactful, and I think that that's the difference.
Yeah. And I agree with you in that it's different when you ask that, because it hit me different.
I remember, because you're like, whoa.
Did I cry? Was I crying?
You didn't cry. If you did, this would be the story I'd tell
sounds
for the
like
next
me.
10 years or something.
Sounds like me.
No,
I
but
would
it
Yeah.
did stop you in tracks. And you said, oh, like that's what? Like it was
Yeah.
it. And I think that if you're authentic, I also think that's the other part of this. Like, don't just, and this goes for any type of sales or marketing, BD in general. Don't just use a tactic because you heard somebody else say it and then it seems like a good idea. Like that's
then
always,
you got to go
Right.
That's
be impactful.
Right.
that is a bad idea to
Yeah.
not be authentic to it. So like if you don't feel that way, don't say it because you think you're going to stop somebody in their tracks and then do it, because at the end of the day, it does become like you're on the hook for your words you said.
Yeah.
So like, hey, how can I be impactful?
Follow up.
Like this is what it is. Like I am being impactful because that is what I said I wanted to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I have noticed more recently, though, is during meetings when we have been asking those questions, I feel like people have been more willing to actually ask for help.
There's something to be said for being
And
vulnerable.
I appreciate that, though, because I
Yeah.
feel like before we'd go to meetings all the time and you would, even us saying, how can I help you? I don't know. Sometimes people would be just like, oh, yeah, no, I
keep
don't
doing what you're
necessarily mean
doing.
anything.
How many times do
Yeah.
we get that? Keep doing
Yeah.
what you're doing. And we're like,
But more recently,
that doesn't mean
people
anything.
really have been, asking for help, and I love that because I think we're at a time now where we're so busy and we do all need help with things, whether it's, can you introduce me to so and so? I would love recommendations with an organization. I mean, anything. So
I'm
it's good.
I'm the type of person that like thrives on being able to help.
Yeah.
Like we've talked about
Yeah.
this. Like I get really, really excited. It's very
Yes.
meaningful to me.
Mhm.
Uh-huh.
Like whatever is it the 5 love languages?
Hmm.
Like mine is acts of service, but like
Is that your top one?
don't do acts of service for me. Like I get extreme joy out of
Well,
doing acts of
everyone
service for people.
gives and receives love differently.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. And so that for me is like that's my thing. I love doing that stuff. It makes me happy. So when someone says yes to me being able to do something that can
Mhm.
impact them or that they need, like
yeah.
that fills my cup.
That-
And so
Yeah.
don't be afraid to ask people for help or be vulnerable
Mhm.
Yes.
because I mean, you're actually for some people doing them a favor.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's also showing them that, right? I feel like vulnerability is an interesting topic because like a
Mhm.
lot of people, especially today, say like, oh, you need to be vulnerable, you need to be authentic. And that's great to say. It's different to actually
It's hard
do
to
that.
do.
And
Mhm.
like
It's rare.
when you actually do it, or when you meet somebody that actually does it, it is definitive. Like
Mhm.
there's no quite like no, they're just being raw.
They're
Like
laying it out.
they're being real with me, and like I
Yeah.
can feel the difference. And I think that goes to this impact idea where it's like I want to be impactful. Like I
Yes.
don't want to help you because I want business, or I don't
Mhm.
want to help
Yeah.
you because you look like a good deal for me. I
Yeah.
want to be impactful to you because I want that. Like that's what
Yeah.
I want.
Yeah.
If that's introducing your kids to my kids because they
Mhm.
both like soccer, or if it's, hey, you really want to do business with this company and I have a connection with them,
Mhm.
whatever that is, or if it's, yeah, you do services that I would get benefit from, whatever it is, it doesn't matter what that is. It matters that the feeling that I have is trying to be impactful or
Yeah.
trying to be helpful in cases.
Right.
Which
Yeah,
is
I love
why I
that.
think it's important, like you said,
Mhm.
only say it when you like really, really mean it.
Yep.
Because no one wants to, I mean, it's hard enough for people to follow up. I feel like we've talked about follow up before. It's, it's rare to follow up, but to follow up on something that is impactful seems extra, extra rare. And so if you're going to do it, like you got to commit to it, you know?
Yeah.
I write emails, obviously, like everybody, but there are a lot of times where when I first started like interacting more with clients or prospects, I would write an email like how I talk and the energy I bring and all
Mhm.
like of the kookiness that I have. And I would be like, oh, does this sound like I'm trying too hard? And I remember asking somebody and they're like, well, is this what you're trying to say? Like, are you like are actually this excited? Are you really, feeling this way? And I'm like, well, yeah, that is, that is, they're like,
Then don't
then do it.
overthink it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just totally. And I remember this definitively saying like, oh, yeah, I use a lot of exclamation marks. Like that's just who I am because that's how I talk. And like
I
if
Yeah.
do
you've
that.
ever talked to me, that's how it
Yes.
is. So
Yeah.
I feel like that's a lesson of once you learn, it's a confidence lesson, right? Because like once you feel good about being you and your realness, it gets so much easier.
I
Like it
think
gets so much
that's
You
easier just
save
to be
so
authentic.
much
I
time.
you
know.
do.
You save so
I'll
much
send emails
effort.
and I'll put "Love you, girl." XOXO. Like business emails.
Oh yeah.
Do it.
Oh
Yeah.
Well,
no,
because if
But I
that's how
mean
you would
it.
talk to
yeah,
the
That's how
person
I
on
would
the
talk to
phone,
them.
correct.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
how I look at it. If this is how I would talk to you on the phone, then it's going in my email.
That's
Yes.
I just had a meeting with a client yesterday. He's in New Jersey, and in the email I said "Love you, boo," and Justin, and Eric, and he's great. He's wonderful. He's amazing. But that's just how we interact, and it's
Right.
like there's never a time where I'm like, oh, this is weird. It's just
Yeah.
like no, this is
Yes.
just who it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when it's a new person that maybe not as comfortable as calling them boo,
Right.
but like they're still getting the nonsense
Mhm.
that I spew because that's
Exactly.
that's also the tale of like, is it good for us to be connected
Yeah.
in any
Mhm.
way?
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to be different for you. Like I'm going to be me. And like, if that resonates with you, awesome. Like then we're on track to have a good friendship or a good connection, a professional connection. But if not, well, then that's okay too, man. There's the abundance mindset. There's so much out there for everyone
Mhm.
that we don't need to like, oh, well, I live scared and I live
Just, I
scarcity.
know,
Like
just
it's, oh, yeah.
sometimes we do that. and
Yeah.
No,
Life's too short. We don't need to be so
I
serious.
know. Memento
Yeah.
mori. You could leave this life at any time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
All right.
So tell us something that is a fun fact about yourself that maybe other people don't know.
one fact about me. I was in the marching band at Arizona State. That's a thing that people might not know. Cassie, you might know that.
I did know
What
that.
instrument did you play?
So in the ASU's marching band, I actually played the cymbals. So I'm a drummer historically, but pretty much all the Blue Devils, this probably means nothing to nobody that's in marching band, but Blue Devils is a drum corps international. They're not pros, but they are the closest thing to a professional drum corps or a professional marching band that you can get to.
Wow.
But like 9 of them were on our snare line. So I didn't have a lot of room to get on the snare line. That was the goal though. So I played 2 years. I played Arizona State's band, which I love. And now watching March Madness, and ASU lost, unfortunately. But I had people over on St. Patty's Day to watch the game, and we play the fight song, and my son Franklin loves it. It's like, he's like, Dada, might song, because he doesn't say F's really well, even though his name's Franklin. And he, so it'll be like, might song, and I'm like, all right, and like I'll get up and we dance the whole time, and then it's like every like 3 minutes he's like, might song, and I'm like, all right, this is cardio like to the T, and I don't know if we're gonna be able to do this every time. But no, we get in the car in the morning, it's like first he wants to hear the might song or the fight song, and then the next song is Thunder, which is
Thunder.
Yep.
Feel the thunder.
Yeah.
Lightning and the thunder.
Exactly. We read a book that there's thunder and lightning in it, and then I one day, because this is how my brain works, it's always music. They just lyrics start spewing out at random times, and that was the song, and then from there it's been that. So those are two.
That's
facts.
pretty cool.
Those
Yeah,
are two
that.
little facts.
Yeah.
You know, so my firstborn, her name is Rain.
Mhm.
And when I was pregnant with Phoenix, we ended up naming him Phoenix, but had he been twins, it would have been
Did you
Thunder
think
and
that?
Lightning. How could I not with Rain?
Did you,
How could I not? How could
did
I
you
not?
really think you were going to have twins?
Well, I didn't know. How do you know? Science.
Yeah.
That would have been.
I guess
that
that's how
would have
you
been
would
hilarious.
science, I suppose.
Science.
Yeah, that
Can you
would
tell
have
I
been.
majored in marketing?
Yeah.
Science.
Yes.
Yeah. So Thunder and Lightning.
No, that would have been amazing.
Yeah.
They'd have been great, like tag team partners in wrestling
Yeah.
or something. It would be their destiny
the
was already
storm.
picked. And they would
They
all
would be
three of them.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Rain, lightning, thunder, wells. Here we come.
Yeah, they could be like UFC fighters, or
I could
they could be a
just
band.
picture it.
Oh yeah,
you
definitely
and,
could be
you
a
and
band.
Paul standing out in the crowd.
Just clapping away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
But no, it's Phoenix. And
Their
Rain.
fans would be the Storm Chasers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man.
Are you going to
Oh,
finish us off with a?
I will.
You will. But before we do that, I
yeah.
do want to say thank you for joining us.
Thank
It
you for
was so
having me.
awesome.
I
Yeah.
hope you had fun. I had a lot of fun.
We love having genuine, authentic, sparkly people on.
Yeah.
I love that I made the sparkle.
Yeah.
The sparkle-less.
This whole podcast was full of exclamations.
It was.
I'm
So on
gonna
the
share with you
subtitles, can you
emails.
exclamation everything, Jake.
Boo.
I'm gonna share with you emails I've sent. You're gonna be like, yeah, this is it sounds like you. This just I had a teacher in high school, my English teacher in high school, which I never read, and it was not a very good writer, which I'm currently writing a book. But I remember he told me one day that he's like, you're not really good at writing, but if I found a random paper laying in the hallway with no name and I started reading it, you wrote it, I would know it was yours. Like, so I just have tone.
That's actually a compliment.
He was being nuts. Like he
A
wasn't being,
walking brand. You have branded yourself so deeply that any content that falls out of your backpack, we will know.
that would be
We will know it's yours.
that's I want that clip. Can I get that clip somewhere so I can put that on my LinkedIn?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Also, who is out there like translating my Italian
Oh,
besides
did.
Mr. Bertolini?
Alex did.
He did.
Why? Do you have another Italian phrase for us?
La donna pranza.
It sounds like a fancy wine.
Yeah.
But,
Anyways,
are
I
we
would
gonna
love
learn
for-
what it is. No, we gotta
No,
look it up.
it's a
Yeah,
secret. They
that's
have
the
to look it
secret.
up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a secret.
Yeah.
I'm sure she'll tell us as soon as he stops rolling. But yeah, Jake agrees.
Yes. Thanks for listening, everyone.
Yeah. And thanks
Ciao.
for coming. Ciao.
Ciao. Oh, that's Italian.
Yes. Yes, it is.